Konami has stated that we are officially not in a Tier 0 format. Huh? Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So recently, it has come into the conversation world out here that, according to Konami, a Tier 0 deck is a deck that has zero counterplay to it. It is by far the definition of uncounterable. There are no decks in the room that can counter this creature. And Snake Eyes Fiendsmith is not the definition of a Tier 0 deck. Now, I've heard a load of bullshit in my life. I've heard a lot of it. But to go so far and say, hey, you know, this is just a Tier 1 deck you're dealing with in the course of the meta here, then why is the locals attendance that's going, up until fairly recently after Fiendsmith cards came out, why did the attendance slash from 40 people, all right, to 16? And this is actually an account that I just personally seen, was a shop that, was pulling 40 people for these events. They were doing fantastic. The minute Snake Eyes happened, slashed right down the middle. I'm sitting here, I'm like, that's crazy. And I'm hearing accounts, once again, back when we had tier format out here, there were so many card shops that were starting to report, hey, numbers are dwindling here. Konami, get off your ass, do something about this. And we're experiencing the same thing again. It's almost like meta fatigue does this. Now, you're probably going to be, watching this video and you're going to be like, yeah, of course Konami's completely oblivious to a Tier 0 format, But the problem in the real, you need to get your crap together button out here that gives me faith in the next ban list is once Konami starts hurting these card shops, and I mean, let's be honest here, they've already got a bad built-in relationship with a lot of these card shops because, how many stores were dropping product, which is actually, this whole statement is very contradictory because Infinite Forbidden hits, less people stop going to events. Like case tournament numbers are getting slashed, people don't want to play competitively. But Infinite Forbidden was one of the best selling sets that we have seen in modern era history. Take a moment to think about that for a second, because that correlation is very, very interesting. If your locals is, selling out of the product, it's flying off the shelves, people want this stuff, but less players are willing to attend your events or attend your locals in general, there is something very, very statistically interesting about that number. So, the truth of the situation here. Konami has dubbed that we are not in a Tier 0 format. Konami defines a Tier 0 format as a deck that has zero other decks in the course of the top cut that can fight this. Now, based on that definition, though, hypothetically, if you're in an entire top 4, then you could say, oh, well, if all top 4 is all the same decks, then technically wouldn't we be in a Tier 0 format? Yes, I would define that as that. If the top end of the meta is starting to define this, and I would even be willing to completely say that, if Konami is going to ignorantly ignore Tier 0.5, and I do know a lot of people look at Tier 0.5 and they're like, oh, that doesn't exist, Robbie. I actively believe with all my heart that you can have a deck that is better than the rest of the decks in the room and still have other decks exist in the format that are Tier 1. That is always going to be something I'm going to stand by. Because when you're fundamentally looking at how this game works and how the game is, at certain points, the Snake Eyes Fiendsmith is borderlining Tier 0. Like, personally, I would almost say that it is Tier 0, but it's not impossible to counterplay it, alright? It just so happens right now that the choice of counter picks against your meta, one, you either have to play extreme anti-meta in order to do so, which is going to dip you into the runic stuff, which is why people are unhappy about that, because people are like, I would rather just not play this game than, play runic. Well, I'm really glad that for some reason you've got this whole hiccup here that, you're too good to play a deck. because you don't want to win. I don't know why this mentality comes up in the player base. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Back 15, 16 years ago, people would pick up a deck and choose to play it to win. I don't know where these dilemmas of I'm too good for this, I don't want to win are coming from in the modern era. Like it's an entire moral debate, and I think it's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But whatever, man. If you would rather, eat shit than play Runic, sure, you do you. All right, some of the stupidest crap I've ever heard. So there's that. Obviously, the master of your craft we've talked about, with Labyrinth and things like that, specifically tuning your decks to adjust through these matchups, or you just break down and buy the tier 1 engine. There's a reason why Infinite Forbidden sold out as quick as it did across the board. People not only wanted the chance to get the Fiendsmith stuff, but there were a lot of selling points in that set that people wanted. And of course, the new Marl Charmy. Another big thing I want to point out here, while we're kind of just LOLing at the fact that Konami's being ignorant as crap as usual, you've got to remember that a lot of people picked up this set because people wanted Marl Charmies. I can tell you without any doubt in my mind that I have seen a crap ton of players that are setting out this format right now that are choosing not to play because it is a terrible format, but they are still actively picking up cards like Marl Charmies to have for when the next ban list actually comes. So that's a pretty interesting thing. So numbers attendances across the board are down for locals. I want to point that out. But Robbie, Euros just hit such over 2,000 people. The NAWCQ just hit over 2,000 people. Those are the most prestigious events that we've had out here. But if you have a locals that is hitting, pinnacle numbers and, suddenly, but Robbie, it's summer. Yeah, it is. But over the last month, and this is also before Infinite Forbidden came out here. If you're watching a delusion of numbers happening here, there's something wrong, all right? A 40-man local doesn't go down to 16 people, suddenly overnight unless a format just goes to crap. People are fatigued out, and that's just how it is. And I actively, as of filming this, I have heard, nine reports from communities and people so far that have just said that it feels like their community is dying right now because of the current state of the meta. But remember, guys, we're not in a tier 0 format. By the definition of tier 0, it must be a 100% top cut, and there must be no other decks out here to allow counterplay to that, which means yes, we are not in a tier 0 format, or tier 0.5 format. No, you're just dealing with an extremely good tier 1 deck out there. No, that's the dumbest shit I've heard. All right, this format is awful. I am still going to continue to play Runic. There's no differences. I would like to point out, though, something that I am going to start here relatively soon on this channel, for those of you that have made it this far. I have talked to a couple of my local players out here, a couple friends of mine, and we've wanted to start a video series. I know, right? MGoal 40 video series. We want to bring a match every weekend where, we pick a semi-fun competitive deck. Mimighoul, Centurion. By the way, this is going to be Limbo format stuff, so... but the definition of Limbo format is basically all OCG card pool under current TCG list. So once we get the next TCG list, I do want to bring, Mimighoul, Centurion. One of my friends is playing Valmonica out here, so... And we want to do a match style to showcase, these decks and so forth. And also, give some deck profiles and things and explain some of the combinations of things that, we want to try. I mean, I don't want to sit down here. I don't want to throw, Snake Eyes versus Tenpai. There are certain decks that I love in this format. Zodiac is one of them. You might actually get to see this. But, this video series is meant to be a once per week sort of thing. Have both the deck profiles, have the match all put together under one thing so you could actually get a full presentation out of the showcase. And maybe you won't like the decks, maybe you won't, but I think that would be something relatively fun to kind of bring to this channel and just have some fun with. We actually just picked up a Harpy Core, a Mutant Core, Infernoids, all yesterday. So we have some other lower end stuff, but I gotta get my Mimighoul phase out of me because we're really doing this. Trust me. I finally have one. All right. We can finally do something. Also, you know, like I said, I've been working on the Centurion stuff. That Synchro, the level 8, definitely made me, you know, very excited. We also pulled this stuff out. So I got to learn some combos, but we'll see what we can come up with for that. So, enjoy your Tier 0 format, everybody. Leave a comment down below to what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back the other day, guys.
Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.